Greetings once again to all the saints of Sherman Oaks Lutheran Church and to anyone else who may be watching. Once again, my name is Titus Utecht. I've been called to serve as the pastor here at Sherman Oaks Lutheran Church. And I wanted to just start off by saying that I'm very thankful and very blessed to get to serve such a wonderful congregation. In already just this first week of getting to meet some people, get to work here at the church a little bit, it's already shown itself to be such a wonderful, loving, caring, and faithful congregation. And so I'm very thankful to get to serve with you, and I look forward to our time together. My family and I would also like to very earnestly thank everyone who put so much work into preparing the parsonage and everything else for our arrival. It's amazing. You've done wonderful work, a fantastic job, and it was really neat just to arrive at Sherman Oaks, and from the moment we first stepped our foot into parsonage to already see and feel the love that's been poured on us. So thank you so much for that. I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you at Sherman Oaks Lutheran Church here, but unfortunately that's kind of being put off a little bit by the coronavirus deal, and so instead I'll have to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'll go ahead and give just a few minutes of biography background, tell you a little bit about my life and how I got here. So I come from a family of pastors. My dad is a pastor, my grandpa was a pastor, my uncle is a pastor, my uncle is a pastor, and my other uncle is a pastor and also a cousin. So to say the least, I won't be the first Pastor Utecht in the family. And even my wife's grandpa is also a pastor. So come from a strong lineage of pastors. But I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where my dad was studying at the seminary. And then while I was still a baby, he was called to serve at a place that's not quite as big as Los Angeles. It's the bustling metropolis of Rosebud, South Dakota. Just in case you haven't heard of that, it's kind of on the south central border of the state. Well, in all seriousness, it was a rather remote place that I grew up, quite different from here. We were literally 2 hours from the nearest place that was big enough to have a Walmart. And here we'll put up a picture of the country school that I attended, just kind of out in the middle of the cattle fields on a gravel road. Fun little fact for you, South Dakota has more than 4 times as many cattle as it does people. So if that gives you any kind of an idea of where I grew up, there you go. Anyhow, so here's a picture of us moving out to California.
The Beverly Hillbillies.
And my brothers and I have been singing to me the theme song from that lately, which is pretty funny to see how true it is until you start to realize exactly how true it was. Now, here's a picture of the last sermon I preached before heading out here, which was at a little family gathering, and my pulpit was a tailgate of a pickup backed up to a barn. And so I went from that to now Mike almost had me standing in front of a green screen. If we would have done this half an hour earlier, I would have been in front of it. I don't know if that makes me a movie star yet, but here we go. Anyhow, so aside from being in the middle of nowhere, Rosebud is part of the Rosebud Indian Reservation, and my dad is called to serve as a missionary pastor, and he still is there and has been serving for over 20 years now. And Rosebud was a very interesting place to grow up and to see what the world is like and to see what Christ's work is like, because there on the reservation there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of alcoholism, and even though it's a tiny spot in the middle of nowhere, there's still a lot of gang violence. And in many ways, it's quite hard there. But then at the same time, you also realize that the problem that they face there is really no different than the same problem we face here, and that's the problem of sin. It just happens to look a little bit different. And it's the same problem and the same solution. The only salvation is in Jesus Christ, and it's been great to see how, well, through the work of Dad and Grandpa actually started the mission work there, and Dad has continued it, to see God's work, God at work in the lives of those people. And many of them do believe. And there's a lot of good things there on the reservation as well. For one, the people are also quite generous. It was amazing to see how, despite all of the poverty, the people there are some of the most generous people I've ever met. And just to see, here's a picture of one of the ladies who sewed some stoles for me, which I'll be wearing once I get ordained. Then as I grew up there, I got to grow up helping Dad with a lot of things. Every summer we'd go do a traveling VBS and go to a lot of the different communities, do puppet shows, juggling, magic, Bible stories, crafts, all of that. Had a great time, and it was a great experience to grow up and see and be part of the gospel at work there on the reservation. But then got to my senior year of high school, and for whoever knows what reason, I decided to sit down and read the Bible cover to cover, and start in Genesis. And by the time I got to Revelation, it was like, wow, this book is great. I love this, and was really captivated by God's Word. And about that same time, it's senior year of high school, everybody's saying, hey, what are you going to do? You need to start thinking about what you want to do in life, and you should probably, you want to work with something that you like. So sat down, said, well, I like the Bible. Pastors work with the Bible. I guess I'll be a pastor, which I still think is very limited and shallow sort of reasoning, but that's how God got me into the ministry. And so before it was time, before I could go to seminary, you have to get a bachelor's degree. So I went off to college at Concordia, Nebraska, in Seward, Nebraska, which, by the way, I thought was a big city because they were so big they had a Walmart, and most people thought it was a small town because there was only 5,000 people there, but I'll let you decide on that one. Anyhow, I've always had an interest in matters of faith and science, and always loved science, so I decided to study biology and chemistry and try to double major, although I ended up dropping the biology degree because I figured out I could graduate early, right along with the most beautiful girl in the world who I happened to meet at Concordia there. Her name is Rhiann, and we got married right after graduating and headed off to seminary. So then we moved over to Fort Wayne. Rhiann taught third grade at a Lutheran school for the first couple of years there and did a wonderful job. Then the third year we headed up to Vicarage in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and had a great experience there, met a lot of wonderful people and learned a lot, and also had our first daughter, Kyra, who is one of the happiest and most cheerful girls you'll ever meet. Then we came back to Fort Wayne, where our second daughter, Hephzibah, was born with the most bright and beaming and heartwarming smile you'll see. Then we're also now expecting our third child to come sometime in October, so looking forward to that. But went back to Fort Wayne, finished up my Master's of Divinity degree the first year, and then stayed an additional year to get an additional degree, Master's of Sacred Theology, and with that degree got to delve into a lot of matters of faith and science, like I had wanted to for a while. And then this spring, in April, found out that we had been called to Sherman Oaks Lutheran Church here in Sherman Oaks, California. So we just arrived here this last week, and we have been so blessed to be here and so excited to serve. And again, I want to thank you all for all the wonderful work and the preparation that's been done for our arrival. We really have felt just so much love and care from the congregation, even just in our first arrival and even before we had come. And so now we look forward to getting to meet all of you in person instead of just talking to this camera, and we look forward especially to the years of service that the Lord has in store for us together. Thank you.